Welcome to the Pathways to Success Ready to Work series presented by the Career and College Transitions team at San Diego Continuing Education. Today's workshop is on types of interviews. Whenever someone hears the word interview, immediately their anxiety and stress level increases. After all, this is the process that will determine whether you get the job or not. In essence, how successful you will be at selling yourself to a potential employer determines the outcome of the interview. Interview is defined as a structured conversation where one participant asks questions and the other provides answers. Guess what? There is no perfect interview. No matter how great you are, how perfect the job is for you, you will walk away from the interview thinking, I should have said this or I should have said that. It's just human nature. So now you have your foot in the door and it's your opportunity to shine. With that in mind, the best thing you can do is be prepared. Let's take a look at the following video. Keep in mind that these are all the wrong answers. After looking at the video, you know now more than ever how important it is to be prepared for your job interview. Every employer will require a different interview and process, so it's up to you to be ready for each one. In this presentation, we will review the 6 types of interviews and how to help to be prepared for each. Each interview method, style, and technique has both advantages and disadvantages. How you prepare will greatly depend on the industry, business, and the position that you will interview for. The more you know, the more you're comfortable with the process and the more you'll shine. Let's take a look at the 6 types of interviews. First, there's the telephone interview, sometimes called a screening interview. Next is a video interview. The third type is a panel interview. Then the assessment day interview. Another type of interview is called the group interview. And finally, the one-on-one interview, sometimes called a face-to-face interview. This is by far the most common type. Telephone interviews are valuable because they can do 2 things. 1, they speed up the interview process, and 2, they greatly minimize wasting time for both you and the employer. They also allow the employer to decide if you are suitable for the position before an actual meeting, which is actually a benefit to both you and to the employer, because each of you have the opportunity not to move forward with the process if you don't like what you hear. Telephone interviews are also perfect if you are interviewing for a job that requires a lot of communication via telephone. The employer can tell right away what type of communication skills you have. Telephone interviews usually last about 30 minutes. That means 5 minutes for each of you to warm up with pleasantries and 20 minutes to really delve into the getting to know you part. If the telephone interview goes longer than that, that could be a good sign. It means they are interested in you and you obviously are interested in them. As I mentioned before, telephone interviews allow the interviewer to gain a better understanding of who you are and the type of candidate you may be. Keep in mind that because it's effortless does not mean that it's not important to do your best. You should put in the same amount of preparation as you would for any other type of interview. There are both advantages and disadvantages to the phone interview. The advantages of the telephone interview are 1, they are much quicker than a face-to-face. 2, they're much cheaper and convenient than a face-to-face. 3, they do take some less effort. For example, you don't need to find the right outfit. 4, they provide an opportunity firsthand for the employer to see your communication skills. And 5, they provide an opportunity for you to decide if you are really interested in the position before investing your time and energy. Now, there are disadvantages to the telephone interview. 1, the call can be interrupted by a bad signal, other calls, or background noise. 2, scheduling the call means selecting a time in which you can focus and are not pressed for time. And 3, you are not able to read the nonverbal gestures of the interviewer, for example, their facial expressions. Now, one last piece of advice. Don't start a telephone interview while you're in the bathroom, driving in a car, or at another appointment. Not only is it unprofessional, but it can be distracting for you and the employer, and can potentially cost you the job. At all costs throughout the call, maintain a professional manner and high energy. The next type of interview is the video interview. With today's technology, video interviews can take place in a variety of ways. It could be Skype, Zoom, Google Hangouts, FaceTime, or any other type of video technology. A video interview is a great alternative to the telephone interview because it allows you and the employer to see each other, which adds a level of importance and professionalism to the interview. It also removes the temptation for you to engage in other activities, thus causing you to lose your focus. When having a video interview, it is important that you take the time to dress the part. In this situation, business casual attire would be acceptable. And if you're not sure what business casual is, take a look at our Dress for Success presentation for ideas. It is also important that you select a place that is without clutter and distractions. Video interviews may not have a set time or duration. They depend on the situation and how many will be involved in the process. At a minimum, the process can take 30 minutes, but I have seen some interviews take as long as an hour. There are both advantages and disadvantages to a video interview. The advantages are: 1, they are quicker than a face-to-face interview. 2, they are cheaper than a face-to-face interview. 3, they take a lot less time and effort to prepare for. And 4, they can take place with you anywhere. On the other hand, there are disadvantages to this type of interview. They are: 1, interruptions can occur due to bad signals, connection, or background noise. 2, scheduling can be difficult if you have another job. 3, you may find it difficult to connect to the employer. And 4, you will need to put effort into how you look. One last piece of information. Make sure to stay focused and no multitasking. You don't want your eyes darting around, taking away from the interview process. Panel interviews are similar to face-to-face interviews, except during these interviews there can be as little as 2 people and sometimes as many as 8 or more interviewing you. More and more employers are starting to utilize this type of interview more frequently to see how prospective employees stand up under pressure. While it may be anxiety-ridden for you, one of the great things about the panel interview is that it can eliminate any personal biases that sometimes come from the interviewer in a one-on-one setting. During this type of interview, each interview will pick up on different things that the prospective employee may have, like your strengths, your weaknesses, your personal characteristics, which leads to a much fairer judgment of the candidate. Unlike video interviews, panel interviews usually have a set time or duration of about 45 minutes. This allows enough time for the panel staff to determine if you are the right person for the job and also gives you some insight to the people who work for the company. In some instances, when the interview gods are smiling upon you and everything seems aligned, the panel interview may last longer than an hour. Don't fret, it just means that you are doing something right and they are genuinely interested in you. As with the other types of interviews, there are both advantages and disadvantages to panel interviews. First, let's talk about the advantages. 1, as a candidate, you get a chance to meet a variety of people that work in the company. 2, you have an ability to really sell yourself and connect with the other employees. And 3, you have a chance to see if you really want to be a part of the team. Now, on the other hand, there are disadvantages to the panel interview. First, a panel interview can become complex when the interviewers are not in sync and everyone is throwing questions all at once. And 2, a panel interview can sometimes be overwhelming and very scary. When a great panel interview occurs, one person is leading and the others are following. This allows the interview to flow more easily and should minimize overlap of questions and interruptions. Remember, the panel interview can work to your advantage once you get used to all the people in the room. The 4th type of interview is sometimes called the assessment day. A great way to bring a large group of people to an interview is with an assessment day. The assessment day interview is usually used for a large group of interviewees all at the same time. It allows the interviewer to assess the group for a variety of differing skills to fill the job employment opportunities. This type of interview is most common among graduate employers as they provide an opportunity to evaluate candidates in more detail for a much longer period of time. Another great thing about this type of interview is because the group is so large, Interviews usually take place in a large room, so there is less of a feeling of being restricted or closed in, which often leads to anxiety during an interview. When you are taking part in this type of interview, it is important to take care that you don't blend in. It is easy to get lost in a group of people who are looking to gain the same job. Assessment day interviews can be exhausting, as they have been known to last one day to as long as a week. For most companies, they are used as the very first recruitment step as a way to flush out the superstars of a large crowd. As with all other platforms, there are both advantages and disadvantages of the assessment day interview. Some of the advantages are: 1. Interviewers are able to see a wide range of skills from each of the candidates. 2. It provides more time for the interviewer to get to know you. 3. It allows the interviewer to assess your interpersonal skills and how well you work in teams. And 4. It allows you to be yourself, thus giving answers that truly reflect your individuality. There are some disadvantages, however, to the assessment day interview. 1. The pressure of this type of platform can make you uncomfortable. 2. You have to take time to really hone your skills, as other candidates who are more dominant can take over. 3. It is much harder for you to build a rapport with the interviewer. And 4. You may find it difficult to work in large groups when it comes to selling yourself. In the end, the assessment day platform can be good because it gives you the ability to really show your skills and stand out. On the other hand, it can be daunting if you tend to shrink in large groups. You will need to really be ready for this type of interview. Take the time to practice feeling comfortable with yourself and with what you have to offer. Arrive ready and determined to get the job. The fifth type of interview is the group interview. Similar to the assessment type interview, the group interview brings together groups of people for an interview. Although they have a place in the world of interviewing, they are used a lot less regular than some of the other platforms. There are 2 ways in which a group interview can be held. The interviewer can ask one question to the entire group and allow each to respond, creating a competition between the candidates. Or the interview can, similar to the assessment platform, hold brief introductions and then separate the group by having them complete small group tasks and activities. As with the assessment platform, it is important to take care that you don't blend in. Do what you can to stand out. Let the interviewer see that you are the right person for the job. When a group interview is taking place, they can be anywhere from 45 minutes to over an hour. This can be exhausting. You must be on and present for the entire length of the interview. With the group interview, you should allow yourself enough time to shine. Group interviews have both advantages and disadvantages, just like the other platforms. The advantages of group interviews are: 1. You have the ability to present a wide range of skills. 2. You can show how you work as part of a team or showcase your interpersonal skills. 3. It allows the interviewer to weed people out of the process much sooner. 4. It allows you to be less stressed as the pressure is on everyone, not just you. And 5. It allows you to provide responses that are genuine and comfortable instead of rehearsed. There are disadvantages to the group interview. First, there is much more pressure to stand out. 2. Others with a more dominant personality can sometimes take over. 3. Group interactions may not be your strength. And 4. It requires you to become more competitive. Group interviews can be great because it allows you to shine while you're being your natural self. On the other hand, they can be very competitive and create anxiety if you do not thrive well under pressure. Keep in mind that it is easy to get lost in crowds, so for this type of interview, you need to be able to stand out in the crowd. The last type of interview that we will discuss is the face-to-face interview. It is by far the most common type of interview. It is also the one that probably brings out the most anxiety for job seekers. Companies tend to believe that this is by far the most efficient way of interviewing potential candidates for open positions, simply because it allows them to be able to get up and close and personal with you while also observing your body language. While that may be great for them, it can be anxiety-ridden for you. It means coming to the interview polished and ready. It also means that you have to work on your nonverbal cues. For instance, if you tap your foot normally when you're nervous, during a face to face interview, you'll need to control the urge as the interviewer can become distracted. Face to face interviews are perfect for companies who do not have a long list of candidates they want to interview. It allows the interviewer to really see how you present yourself. Most face to face interviews take on average about 45 minutes. However, there are some instances when the interview can be over an hour. If it runs longer, it's usually a good signal. It means that you have really built a rapport with the interviewer and they are interested in you. They have found you engaging in conversation. You have not only answered the questions but expanded upon them with great detail to make them want to get to know you. However, you need to be aware of how long the interview is lasting. Make sure that your answers are not rambling on about the question, but that you are answering the questions that the interviewer has asked. On the other hand, a face-to-face interview that ends in less than 30 minutes can be a sign that the interviewer is not interested or thinks you may not be a good fit. With this type of interview, you should allow yourself enough time to shine. Group interviews have both advantages and disadvantages, just like all the other platforms. Some of the advantages to face-to-face interviews are: 1, you are able to build rapport with the interviewer much easier. 2, the interviewer has an opportunity to assess you to see if you are a good fit. 3, you have the opportunity to watch their nonverbal cues as you answer questions, so you know when to stop talking and when to expand your answers. 4, you can really sell yourself both in how you present yourself outwardly and how you sell yourself through conversation. And 5, you have an opportunity to really expand upon your resume. Now, there are some disadvantages to face-to-face interviews. 1, if you are not careful, you can present as rehearsed and unnatural. 2, the interviewer can have biases that you are unaware of. For instance, tattoos, piercings, color of hair, gender, etc. 3, the interviewer can be rushed and therefore make you uncomfortable during the process. And finally, they can be a waste of time. Face-to-face interviews can both be daunting and rewarding. In the end, it's all about you and how you sell yourself during the process. It is always a good idea to practice before the face-to-face interview. Take the time to work on your body language, your fidgeting, and any other things that could be a distraction during the interview. Remember, first impressions are lasting. No matter what type of interview you participate in, it is always important to remember that the interview is all about you. It is an opportunity for the interviewer to get to know you and determine if you are a good fit for their business, how well you work with the team, and how you will overall represent them. For every interview, you should take the time to work to your strengths and improve where you are not as strong. Only you can sell you. So we wish you luck with your next interview. If you have any questions regarding interview types or anything else related to career and college transitions, please reach out to the team listed here. We are here to support you and wish you all the luck in your career and college endeavors. Thanks again for your time and have a great day.